productivity, winning strategies, and aligning employer-employee goals. If this sounds like something your business could use more of, then you've come to the right place. The Business Mechanic Show with your host, Vaughn Sigmund. Let Vaughn show you how to develop, improve, and jumpstart your business. So now, please welcome the host of The Business Mechanic, Vaughn Sigmund.
Welcome to the Business Mechanic Show. This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, co-founder of Results Driven Leadership. We provide the knowledge, skills, and tools you need to advance your career and business success. Whether you're just getting started or have been running a business for years, we've got the advice and the tips that will help you stay ahead of the competition. Visit rdltraining.com for more information. Now, let's get started. And I want to start today with a thought. A good mentor hopes you will move on. A great mentor knows you will. And this same thing holds true for managers. This was all sparked this week by the timeliness of several conversations I had with some of my clients this week. And I won't give you the details of all that, but it prompted me to plan on today's podcast to be on the topic of the importance of not only developing your employees, but the hows. Many people get stuck in how, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to approach it? What things should I be developing my team members on? So let's get into this. I'm going to give you lots of information on the hows of this and also some of the whys, but I'm going to talk tactically a little bit today on the steps you should be taking and the approaches that I think are vital and essential and maybe head slappers to you for how to develop your employee team. Now, I've done a podcast earlier on why. That was a few months ago. Today, we're going to talk about the how. Let me make the point. A manager's role should be to nurture their team and sharpen their skills of each and every individual on your team. So there is always somebody ready for advancement. Now, does that sound like nirvana to you? Well, I can tell you from my own personal experiences, it's very doable. I did it for decades. It takes some planning and it takes effort. And we're going to get into all this. It takes a change in mindset in how you're approaching your day-to-day. Because when new opportunities arise for you or new opportunities rise within the organization, you should always have somebody waiting in the wings to take that position. There should never be a hiccup there. It should be planned on, and we should be working down the path of getting people ready to take either your position or a position that's opening or somebody else's position. If something were to happen, say something great like you got promoted, let me tell you, it's a whole lot easier to get promoted when your successor is already in place. That's going to pull the trigger faster for you. So just think about that. Think about the contribution, the valuable contribution you'd be making to your organization or to your company if you're a business owner, by grooming and developing and mentoring great talent within your organization. No, they're not all going to grow up to be CEOs. They all have their capacity. They all have their limits of what they can advance to. But we've got to figure out what that potential is and be playing to it. And you don't have to be working on the development of everybody. You can single out a person or two. But I can tell you, as a broad sense, you ought to have programs on your team or within your organization that everybody's learning and growing on some aspect, especially the tactical side, the industrial knowledge side of the business, whether you're A sales team, they need to be constantly being trained on sales. If you're a manufacturing company, the newest techniques, tools, certifications, you should always have that as part of your DNA. And if you're in the architectural world, there should be opportunities galore to continue this knowledge, skills, and tools of your team. It works in every single industry. So you want to be prepared when these opportunities arise. You want to have the replacement. You want to be able to replace yourself. You want to be able to move people into the next level position, whether it's an opening or it's created. And it's absolutely key for managers not just to look outwards when we have an opening. That is, well, I'll put it this way. That will set you up for long-term failure. That will slow you down, if not help you fail, both as a manager, as an organization, if we constantly have to look outside for our management team. We need to make the focus internal and make sure company far more successful, far healthier. It keeps people around longer, and I'm going to get into all that shortly. So you need to have and foster an environment of growth and development, or else you're going to find yourself and your employees are going to find themselves stuck in a less than beneficial situation. We all talk about turnover and people leaving for $1 or 50 cents an hour. Let me tell you, if you get really good, or even moderately good, just kind of good at this, you will slow down the mindset of your employees of looking anyplace else. I promise you that. They will work for you for less on a $1 per hour basis if they feel like they're trusted, they're being developed, that they feel like they're going somewhere. There's an opportunity to go somewhere in this organization. It keeps them from looking. Not that they eventually won't, but it slows it down. It allows you to hang on to people longer, if not a lot longer. So keep that in mind. I did a podcast some months ago on how money doesn't motivate employees. This is essentially what motivates your employees, but it's you that has to motivate them. They can't motivate themselves. Face that fact. So let's move on. Here's a cold, hard fact, y'all. Cold, hard fact. According to the SBA, Small Business Administration, about 20% of new businesses fail during the first year of operation. 20% failure rate, but it gets worse. About 50% of businesses fail within their first 5 years. Now, if you're a business owner, pay attention to that. It's always people, product, process, but I can tell you right now, you can have the best product and the best process in the world. If you don't have the right people who have the knowledge, the ability to, the competency, the dedication, the drive, the trust, the motivation to operate the processes and promote the product, you've got nothing. You've got failure. Or at the very best, you're going to reach your cap, and that's as far as you're going to grow. Your company, you can only elevate your company if you elevate your people. I promise you, show me one successful company that this hasn't been a big part of. You cannot grow your company with 100% people from the outside. You can do it for a while, but it reaches the point where you will come apart and the leaks in the boat will become a major sinking. So keep that in mind. Now let's talk about managers. When we hire managers, this is a very interesting statistic that I'm betting most of you have never heard before. According to a study by Leadership IQ, who analyzed 5,000 managers from 540 organizations, 46% of all newly hired managers failed in their first 18 months. So you hire somebody from the outside, at best, you got a 50-50 chance of them being successful for you. Plus, take into account all the damage they're doing during their failure within your organization. It's a virus. And some of those failures and viruses and drama that they create, they're going to chase off good people. They're going to keep good people from coming to work for you. All kinds of bad things are happening in those first 18 months. But I can tell you, if you've had somebody been with you for months, if not years, that you've grown through the organization, you know exactly what you're getting. And your likelihood of success with an internal promote is astronomically higher than going to the outside. So grow your own. Grow your own. Be careful. And let me add another thing here. Another study by Career Builder found that 58% of managers, almost 60% of managers who were in a management position had never received any management training. And you should not be one of them. In fact, visit RDL training, get your training for only $47 a month. Learn to be a good manager and leader. Invest in yourself, or get your company to invest in you. Business owners, invest in management training for your people. It doesn't come naturally. Let me just tell you why I know that. Here is why training is so essential. Another study by Gallup found that only 1 in 10 people possess the natural talent to be a great manager. So yes, there are people that naturally become great managers, but 90% of them don't. They need the training. They're not going to just figure it out on their own. So I'm moving on. I'm off on my soapbox here. And if you have not listened to my podcast which supports what I'm talking about today, if you haven't listened to the podcast on how to spot the leadership traits of your employees, please put that on your to-do list. That's an important next step after you listen to this podcast. So let's talk about the qualities of what makes a manager successful. They can certainly varies depending on the organization, the team, the situation, the industry, but some common traits include strong communication and interpersonal skills, emotional intelligence or soft skills, their decision-making ability, their ability to think big picture or strategic thinking in infinite terms, long terms versus tactical, and most importantly, their coachability or their willingness to learn and improve. That's a no-go if you cannot develop somebody that is unwilling to be developed. But if you've got somebody that is eager to learn, man, seize on that. So let's get back to why it's so important to develop your employees. I've done many podcasts along this, but it's something I'm very passionate about. It was my passion when I was an executive for many, many years. But again, what would happen to your team? What would happen with your company, if you're a business owner, if something happened to you tomorrow? Do you have a natural successor? And I ask this question very often in the beginning of a coaching engagement with my clients, and almost none do. It is the very rare exception that somebody is already working on a path to succession. It rarely happens. And that's one of the reasons why I want to prod you today to start thinking this way. But you've got to take the time, make the time, train and equip your employees, your direct reports for future roles. You as a manager can create opportunities for upward mobility for yourself and for them at all levels of staff. And that allows them to make tremendous strides in not only their success, but your success and the company's success. It's a force multiplier. that unfortunately is rarely used. And in today's highly competitive business world, your employees are one of your, if not your most valuable, one of your most valuable assets. Their knowledge, their skills, their experience, their competencies are your key to achieving success. And think about how much more successful they would be. I can tell you, most managers and leaders, now I can't call you a leader if you're not already thinking about this, business owners are not investing any time, zero to little time, in the advancement and the long-term success of their employees, their direct reports. But investing in these employees will create an atmosphere where everyone can grow together, ready to move up whenever the company has a need. You're ready. And I ran companies for decades just like this, and I know how doable it is. But you just have to make it part of your mindset. You have to commit to it. And one of the things I learned is almost everywhere I was an executive, because I focused myself and the folks who I surrounded myself with, my direct reports, on this very topic, we had very low turnover. We had very high morale. We had very high engagement. But more importantly, what it allowed me, and this is a little selfishly, and I tell people this, and it's not completely a joke, I'm basically a lazy guy. And if I can find a way to do something easier with the same level of quality, I'm going to do it. And this is my way of running a $2 billion business on 40 hours a week, not being called and bugged all the time. It's because I worked and spent some amount of my time, not all of my time, but I set aside the appropriate amount of time to work on the development, the training, the investment in those who worked with me, and encouraged everybody who worked directly for me to do that, to make that same investment in their direct reports. But many managers overlook, ignore the importance of employee development. I'll get off of that now. So this podcast today, we're going to discuss how managers can encourage employee development, focus their efforts more on employee development, and the natural outcropping of all that, outcome of all that, is the benefit to you and your organization. So let's talk about what employee development is. It's the process of improving an employee's skills, knowledge, and abilities through training, education, coaching, and mentoring. It doesn't have to be some big Harvard degree approach to things, people. It could be just a conversation, some assignments, some additional responsibilities, some delegating. It's a mutually beneficial process that has nothing but benefits for them, you, and your organization. And like I mentioned earlier, it absolutely is proven 100% of the time that when you have a robust commitment to employee development, your employees are satisfied. Like I mentioned earlier, they're not looking for new jobs. In fact, just read an article this morning before I did this. I just read that 70% of everybody in the workforce today is looking for a new job. Wow, that's a lot. And do you want that to be part of your challenge, is having to replace those who aren't satisfied with their job? This is the single easiest way to engage and retain employees, is train them, mentor them, make them feel part of something, make them feel trusted. That trust begets trust. You've got to trust them. They will trust you, and nothing but good comes from that. Because when employees feel that their development is important to the organization, they're committed to doing better work. Have you ever had somebody on your team say, hey, listen, I need you to do this. I know that's not part of your job description, but I need you to take care of this. And they look at you and say, hey, you going to pay me for it? You going to give me a raise for that? It's a very common mindset today, and it drives me nuts. But it also shows that that organization does not have the right mindset around employee development and the contribution or the investment the management team or the manager or the business owner is putting in to their employees. So you'll keep them happier. They'll be more productive. You will keep them longer. Retention soars. I ran a big company. I've ran several big companies. My last one, we had single-digit turnover. Now, there was a lot of factors that went into that, but our commitment to development and training was a big part of that. Out of 3,000 people, we had single-digit turnover. It was amazing. But it was hard work. Doesn't come easily. But I have never accomplished anything or received anything in my life that didn't come with some work and some change. So you've got to be willing to do that. Because also in the end, it increases your organization's performance. They're going to be more productive. They're going to stay around longer. When they're skilled and with you for a longer time, they're just better equipped to handle their job, be proud of their responsibilities, contribute to longer term to the company's success. They do things faster because they're more competent because they've been doing it longer. Better customer service, better sales, higher quality, less customer issues, higher customer satisfaction. It's all good, folks. And also, if you are mentoring and coaching some number of your employees, you're going to get access to ideas and perspectives that you will never get on your own. I promise you. We don't know what we don't know is an old saying that I say a lot. But if you're working and really creating dialogue with key employees in your organization, you're going to get some ideas and some suggestions that you wouldn't have come up with. And if you can check your ego and self-esteem long enough to accept that, because everything doesn't have to be done your way or the way we've always done, if you can be open to new ideas and approaches to things, you will benefit from it. Because when employees are given the opportunity to learn and grow, they're 100% likely to bring new ideas and perspectives, things that you would not have thought of. It's just going to make you better. Now, let me get more into the how. I've sold you on the why. Let's talk about the how. So there are several ways that managers can train and delegate tasks. Remember, delegation is training. Delegation is training. When you're delegating to your direct reports, they're learning something. But you have to train them to delegate them, don't you? Yeah. So you have to start with a very clear understanding of the employee's strengths. Are they even cut out to be able to do what you're asking them to do? Can they perform? Is it a natural strength of theirs? Now, this can be done through a regular performance review, and I hope you're doing monthly performance reviews like I encourage everybody, because that's a great conversation. A good performance review is just a great conversation on someone's development and advancement. Why do we only do them once a year? I have no idea. It's the dumbest thing ever. Do them monthly. Have great conversations and make this part of your review. Shouldn't be a butt whooping. but you've got to understand their strengths, their natural strengths, preferably. And you need to understand also their areas for improvement. If they've got the strength and they need some improvement on it, point them in that direction. If they got the strength and you've got enough opportunity for them, point them in that direction. And the best way to know what their natural strengths, behavior patterns are is to start with a DISC report. And if you're not familiar with DISC, it's a behavioral assessment tool that provides insights to any individual's personality and behavior. And the report is based on DISC, which categorizes 4 behavioral styles: dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness, DISC. And the DISC report is a personalized analysis of an individual's strengths and their weaknesses and their communication style, their work preferences, and helps you with the strategies to improve interpersonal communication, working effectively with others, working effectively with you. These DISC reports are commonly used in leadership development, sometimes in team building, certainly in your own career development. It's a huge, valuable tool that everybody should get their hands on. You can get yours for free. Any listener to the Business Mechanic podcast, I'll offer a free DISC assessment to you. Why? And they're not free to me. They're free to you. I do it because it's my way of giving back and giving you, the folks who listen to this show, the opportunity to learn more about themselves, because you're listening to this podcast to advance yourself, to get better at what you do. You're bought into what I'm talking about today. I've got to share with you better ways of how to go do it, but start with you. Get a DISC assessment. Click on the link in the show notes. It's free. You'll learn a lot. So part of developing your team is you have to have on-the-job training and coaching. They need to be able to learn new skills. You've got to provide that opportunity. And it could be working on new projects, giving them new tasks, cross-functional, but it's on-the-job training. And then somebody needs to be coaching them, likely you, coaching and mentoring them on developing these new skills. They've got to have that. And so what should I be delegating and training them on? So you can delegate on a wide range of tasks and duties. I mean, again, back to the podcast, one of my most popular courses is time management. And, if you got too much on your plate, you're going to have a tough time getting everything done. So the single best way is to be able to prioritize your time using the Eisenhower quadrant. But what is urgent but not important to you are the kind of things you can delegate. What is on your plate that doesn't necessarily require you at what you're being paid to do? You get yourself caught up in low-level tasks far too often. Those are the sort of things you need to take an inventory of and identify that I can train somebody else and start delegating someone else to do that. Project management. You got something that needs to be done? Well, this is a great way to train somebody. Put them into that leadership role, that project management role. They're going to gain experience. You're going to be able to watch how they interact with others. That will allow you to give them feedback. And it'll also give you a really great understanding of how well they can execute through others. That is leadership. And let me just give you an example. What I'm talking about right here is, again, something I utilize broadly in my career. There was a time when I was running a group of auto dealerships at CarMax that my team was tremendous at everything. We beat everybody's pants in the organization on sales improvement, turnover, profit, promotion of new people, opening new stores, you name it. The team I worked with were killers. They were fantastic, except for one thing, and that was our customer service scores. And for some period of time, we dwelled at the bottom of the rankings on customer service scores. And finally, my boss in my monthly review said to me, "Hey, Vaughn, when are you going to do something about this?" Because I was kind of kicking that can down the road. I'm doing so good at everything else that really doesn't matter, kind of fooling myself. So after Cliff said that to me, I said, okay, I got to get busy with this. But it wasn't every store. It was a handful of stores. As statistics work, it's not everybody. It was some, but those some were so bad that they were pulling down the total number. So what I essentially did is I turned that into a project for those stores. I couldn't fix it. I knew that. And I also knew it was a huge opportunity to put people that I was developing or we were developing in those stores to move to the next level in charge of fixing the problem. And so we formed committees, customer service committees, task teams to work on the root cause of why their store was struggling with customer service and come up with action plans, how to improve it. And not to belabor this whole story, these people dug into it. They were proud to do it. They came up with great action plans to fix it. And within 6 months, we're at the top of the list. Those underperforming stores fixed themselves through the people already working in those stores. And I had to contribute zero other than establish the committees. They fixed it themselves. From the basement to the penthouse, I didn't have to lift a finger. They were awesome. But those are the kind of problems you can solve in your organization by just putting your best people on it, which are your people. Think about that. Think about, too, team management. Think about delegating some team management responsibilities to some employees you've identified for development. This helps develop their leadership, their communication, their interpersonal skills, all those key elements of a great manager and leader. But most importantly, they're gaining experience, real world experience in how to manage teams. It could be 2 or 3 people. Let's say they work in a receiving team in a distribution facility, and they've got 6 or 8 people working on the receiving team. Make them a lead. Make them a lead on that receiving team, or a part of the, if there's a receiving manager, have that receiving manager make somebody a lead for part of the receiving process to help improve part of the receiving process. For example, there's a million things you can think of. With the 2 or 3 people, you put the training wheels on them, do some observations, give them some feedback. And this is, something I've got to really emphasize is you don't just tell them to go do it and they figure it out and do it all by themselves. It takes an investment of your time, some training and coaching on your part. Because when you're delegating tasks, you got to develop your teaching skills for them to gain the experience and trust and be able to do it right. One of the things that you might want to think about doing is making one of your employees the ambassador for all new hires. Or they could be a mentor for all new employees. The first 2 weeks, they're their go-to person. Or maybe there's somebody out on family leave. We need to plug somebody in to watch over that team for a temporary amount of time. So give them an interim assignment, a leadership position for a short period of time to fill that gap. Very often, some other manager takes on that role. And very often, that's the business owner that takes on that role while somebody's on family leave. Hey, take somebody, if you've got somebody you're developing that you've identified, it's a great experience for them. They're going to learn, you're going to benefit, win-win. Client relations. I work with an aerospace company that their very best manager, leader on their team does this extensively. She's got her successor picked out. She's working handily with her successor. But one of the shortcomings of her successor is she was a little nervous around client relations. Sitting down and having updates and discussions on deliverables to the client. Clients would come in and visit. They do inspections on the manufacturing of their products. And this manager was very good at that, but her person she was developing was kind of shy. And so this manager started dragging this person into these meetings, would host meetings, talk about, well, okay, what did you learn? What'd you see? What would you do differently? Because you need to get ready, because I'm going to start letting you lead these meetings at some time in the near future. And gradually this manager gave more and more of the agenda over to this direct report that she's working on as a successor. And guess what? In time, this person who was very shy, wouldn't say boo, is starting to come out of their shell, is understanding that saying what needs to be said is okay. They're developing their courage, their communication skills, their leadership skills. We learn by doing. They're not going to learn by watching you. They're going to learn by doing. And all these things I'm talking about, you got to have them go do it. Think about some administrative tasks. Delegating some of your administrative tasks is a great way to get somebody started. Scheduling, data entry, filing. That's going to help you improve your efficiency, and it's going to free up your time to maybe spend more time developing people. Some cases, budget management, delegating budget management and help them develop their financial skills. I can't tell you how many managers I come across that are not exposed to financial data of the organization, much less be able to understand how to budget things. And I'm a huge proponent of businesses sharing the financials to help their managers understand the impact of their decisions and mistakes on the finances of the company. And if you're a company, as you should be budgeting, have them part of those budget reviews. Bring them in there. Make them responsible for identifying waste, improving waste. Maybe there's some technical skills that they need to learn. Delegating the opportunity to go get more exposure to technical data or skills is a great way to do it. So those are just a few ideas, but hopefully it gives you a spark of some of the things you can be doing. Listen, it's limitless. The wide range of tasks and duties that your employees can support you on and learn at the same time. It will promote collaboration. It will promote teamwork. It will provide opportunities for your employees to learn new skills. And it's super important for you to do this and to delegate things, because that is training. But you got to make sure there's some baggage that comes with this. There's some responsibilities comes if you're going to be delegating and training. It's got to also include some regular feedback and support. That's essential, because by providing this feedback on their performance and supporting them as they learn and grow, managers can help their employees to understand their strengths, what their areas of improvement are. And then you can provide them guidance on how to improve. You can also offer training programs. There's all kinds of certifications online, free, what Udemy, Skillshare. There's all kinds of tools and opportunities out there for people to learn and grow. They cost as much as zero, maybe a few bucks. Find those programs. Maybe there's industrial certifications. If you're marketing, HubSpot has a slew of marketing certifications for free, and they're really good. And by you setting them up, following up, giving them feedback, collaborating with them, learning what they're learning, giving them guidance and mentoring on how to apply that, it's awesome. Listen, if you want to teach them management skills, again, go to RDL's website, $47 a month, and they can do it at their pace. Think about that. It's a great way for somebody moving up in the organization to start getting those essential skills. They can job shadow, following somebody else around to learn a cross-functional position. That's going to build a much stronger and cohesive team. But don't get too ahead of yourself. You need to do this gradually. Start with one person and drip it into them. And as you get better, because you've got to develop your own skills, and you're not going to be good at this overnight. So delegate some tasks, pick a task or two, delegate it to the right person, get their DISC profile to make sure they're cut out for it. Contact me for those. I provide those to you. Delegate these tasks and start getting better at you training, mentoring, delegating. As your skills grow, you can do this more and more, but gradually increase the level of responsibility you either give to an individual or group of individuals. You're building your skills, you're building their skills. And then please catch them doing it right. Recognize and reward your employees when you see them doing well. They've got to hear that from you. That's an essential part of successful employee development, is positive feedback and developmental feedback. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. You've got to take a strategic approach to that, to employee development. That's that. You've got to take a strategic approach to employee development to get this motivated workforce. So you've got to get out of the tactical mindset and into a more strategic mindset. Yes, you have a lot to do. And you have many things coming at you all day, every day. I get it. I've been there. I know the feeling. But developing your employees requires a shift in priorities. Not a gigantic shift, but a shift in your priorities. You must make the time to set aside development time. That is playing an infinite game rather than a finite game. It's an infinite game to your business and your career. The long-term result is a huge payoff. And you'll find yourself, as you do this more, you will find yourself doing less. You'll be less busy. It's amazing. It's subtle, but all of a sudden you'll realize I'm having to work way less than I used to. I've got less distractions than I used to. I have less stress than I used to. Why? Because your people have become less dependent on you and now have multiple resources outside of only you. Subtle, but it's real. And I know this again because it is something I made a big part of my executive career. I worked far less than my peers, but got far more done with a lot higher success. because I invested in my people who were great people who went out and got the job done and done well. Starts with hiring the right people. That's a whole nother podcast. But the point is, you have to schedule time on your calendar. It's the first step. The time will not present itself. It's just not going to show up and say, hey, here's another 30 minutes or an hour this week you can spend on training. You've got to set it aside. None of this will happen unless you schedule it, put it on your calendar, treat it like a doctor's appointment. Coaching and mentoring has nothing but great outcomes. And as you get this started, always include developmental goals. It's a very effective way to encourage employee development, and also for them to be able to track how they're doing. By setting goals, you're going to align their efforts and learning to the progress, their success. Keeps them focused, and most importantly, keeps them motivated. You want them to be able to track their achievements. And these goals need to be SMART. They need to be SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, the person responsible, and time-bound. Give it to them in little bites, 30-day bites, 90-day bites. Give them regular feedback on how they're doing. Give them encouragement. Give them developmental feedback. Give them positive feedback. I encourage you, you must encourage them by regular feedback and communication. That's got to be on your schedule as well, because it will get forgotten. It will get overlooked, and all this will go poof out the window. And remember, no news is good news. Don't set them up or you up for failure by not being courageous and providing progress feedback regularly, honest feedback regularly. Because in the absence of developmental feedback, their perception will be that they must be doing great. No news is good news. But don't be afraid to give them some developmental feedback. It will show that you care. Of course, you've got to use your soft skills to do this. You've got to do it in a nurturing way. Can't be an a-hole about it. But this builds a ton of trust between them and you. Builds a ton of respect. This is how you earn respect, by providing this kind of nurturing and mentoring to your folks. And the more they respect you, the more that, instead of these negative forces you might have, this becomes a very positive force within your organization. So make sure you're recognizing it. You're giving them regular feedback, course correct them when they need to in a developmental way, an encouraging way, and make sure they understand what goal they're moving towards. So let me wrap this up. Let's bring this home. Encouraging employee development is one of the most essential tools, behaviors, best practices, whatever you want to call it, for any manager's growth, for any organization's growth, any organization's success. This investment into employee development, you're going to improve your skills, your knowledge, your ability. You're going to improve their skills, their knowledge, their abilities, their retention, their respect. And it's going to absolutely lead to improved employee satisfaction, retention. Your team, your company is going to perform at a far higher level, and you're going to get access to new ideas, new perspectives. Nothing but good comes out of this, but it takes effort. Nothing good ever comes without some level of pain, change, and discomfort. Commit yourself to that. That's how you get better. So that's it for today's show. As always, Thank you all very much for listening. Please, we'll talk to you again next week. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of the Business Mechanic Show. If today's content resonates with you, then you're going to love what we have to offer. For those of you who are ready to take your business or personal career to the next level, we have an array of training and coaching services tailored just for you. From performance coaching designed to enhance your potential, to executive coaching that guides leaders to steer their ships towards greater success. Are you in sales management or looking to fortify your leadership acumen? Dive into our sales management training and coaching. Not only will it sharpen your strategies, but it will also provide you an ROI that's undeniable. Remember, the best investment you can make is in yourself and your team. For those seeking flexible learning options, we're excited to share our online and in-person management leadership classes. These aren't just your typical courses. They are meticulously crafted, ensuring that they align with your unique needs and aspirations. And the best part, prices start at just $47 per month, making top-tier coaching and training accessible for everyone. Your growth, both personally and professionally, can have a ripple effect, the one I call the transformational triangle of change. The skills you learn, the perspectives you gain, and the efficiencies you create can translate into increased revenues, more cohesive teams, and an enriched company culture. So why wait? The potential ROI on this investment isn't just in dollars, it's in the progressive future you're carving out for yourself and your organization. Thanks once again for tuning in. And remember, every business needs a tune-up every now and then. Let the Business Mechanic Show be your guide. Check out our website, rdltraining.com, to discover more details on our programs and coaches. We have a link in the show notes to guide you there. Until next time, we're out of here.